Hi, my name's Eddie Flanagan, and I'm here to talk about a television program that went out recently called Time. And the guy who played Sean Bean and various other characters in films had the lead role. And being an ex-offender, it is definitely the most realistic portrayal of what life is like inside prison. I'm an ex-offender, and the two things that stood out to me most within the context of this teacher in this program called Time ends up in prison, never been in trouble before. And it was about his journey and some of the facts of life in jails. The weak will be preyed upon because that's the environment. And if you create a human zoo, people are going to behave like animals. It's called conditioning. And I was part of that. And within that subculture, normal rules don't apply. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, is based on prison culture, not on society's morals or what's viewed as right and wrong and what's acceptable and what isn't. Now, I related to the character because when I went in there, I became someone who could survive that environment. You have to be. And I don't think that's really a true reflection of who you are as a person. It's just your ability to survive in an environment that you find yourself in. Violence is a commodity. There was a scene when somebody was scalded with boiling water, and I'd done that to somebody in my time when I was inside, and got taken to court and end up serving a couple more years than I should have done. And I've often thought about that incident and put in the same situation, in the same environment, I'd do it again. Because you only know what you're capable of when it's called upon. I don't know how I'd react in a war, but I know how I react under pressure. And propensity for violence is dictated by the environment and the circumstances. I don't regard myself as a violent man, but I lived in a violent world, and you don't become blasé to the violence. At the end of the day, the person you've got to justify it with is yourself. But I've had to look at myself and who I became, and I now have an empathy for the guy that was involved in that incident I was telling you about. Because just like in the wild, it's the weak one in the herd that gets eaten. So even if you legs skin you, don't start a limp. You mean blag it, walk tall, and especially in that environment. So just a post about how I feel about the man I became, and I think having lived that life and now to live a life as a pacifist, as a reformer, a person who tries to steer other people away from that lifestyle. My advice: if you go to prison, have a fight straight away. It only lasts 30 seconds a minute because the bell goes off, so make sure it's out in the open, have a row, and then, yeah, pretty much like Time. And two is you do what you have to do. It doesn't excuse it, it doesn't explain it, but it's called survival. But there is a way out. because I'm 15 years away from offending. I now work with people to try to steer others clear of that. And in present climate, it's called user services. That means people who have been naughty and are no longer naughty, and their lived experiences. I'm going to Coventry next week, so I'm going to do a couple of name drops here. Ezekiel King. Really nice to talk to you briefly this week, but I've researched you. Well, done some amazing stuff. The guy's been there, done it. He's got the t-shirt. He's a published international author, and he works in Coventry with youth. And myself and my new partner, John Reed, the storyteller fella, are going to meet up with him. And then yesterday, my brains, Joe Egan. I'm terrible with names. Something to do with my dyslexia. That's what I blame it on anyway. And it's made me think about these amazing people that are doing this amazing stuff. Gethin Jones, another name drop. Gethin, top man. But loads of people who have had experiences not dissimilar to mine, that they took the wrong path and they found a way out. And each story is different, and it's different for each person. But mentorship is key in reaching out to the youth that are having to live in a different type prison system now. It's much more, how should I say, radicalised. Staff have got no control in it at all, no matter what they tell you. They know it. Prisoners know it. And I wouldn't like to be doing birth in these days, because it's a lot different, but it's the same. But it's survival. There is a way out. Graham Seed, that's it. Graham Seed, amazing guy in Middlesbrough, had a tough life, turned it around, and he's got a ministry called Sowing Seeds Ministries. And I went up there about 10 years ago with pastor of a church I used to belong to, my mate Robert Lartman, and we visited him. Actually, it must be about 12 years ago, because I drank after I'd been down to see him, and I've been sober 11 years. So it was about 12 years ago. And to see the impact he had on the youth in Middlesbrough, some lads that were making bad choices, and I'll never forget the respect that guy's lived experience brought to his outreach, because that's what it is. It's outreach. It's just reaching out to people and saying, look, bad choices. We're only 2 or 3 bad decisions or good decisions away from failure or success, but our attitude will dictate the outcome of anything we enter into. I'm looking at the clock on my phone, because I'm going to keep this to under 10 minutes. So it's partly to take responsibility for that incident when I was in prison and I hurt somebody. And we are the people who we are, but the child is the father of the man. And a lot of people that's taken the wrong path, I'm not saying all of them, but the childhood traumas that they've dealt with in a negative way, looking back with hindsight. But at that time you're just a child, so you're just reacting to whatever people do around you. So anybody in jail now, you can turn that around. For me, it was art, and it's all about the journey for me now. So really looking forward to Coventry, really enjoying all these connections that I've made and am making on LinkedIn and other platforms. Marvin Herbert, big shout out to him and his partner Chris. Doing cool stuff, bruv, I'm telling you, yeah. I love his saying, changing the narrative, and that's what we do. We are changing the narrative to our and other people's lives, because nobody is too far gone. It's never too late. So, as I like to say now, without risk, there's no change. Without fear, there's no need for courage. Face your fears. Reach out to somebody if you can. And that's what we did, but not living it, not dwelling it. It was what it was. Take care, all that now. Yeah.